Hello, guys. It's Chris here, known as United Active on Twitter. So I know it's been a while since I've done a podcast, and obviously there's been a few things going on. A lot of people talking about the manager situation. There's a lot of updates coming from Old Trafford. So we're going to talk a little bit of detail. We're going to go through a few things. So we're going to go through the Pochettino situation at Manchester United, what's going on with that. If PSG are going to allow talks, we're going to talk about that first. Then we're going to talk about Ten Hag, who's mostly the fans' choice. We're going to talk a little bit about what's going on with him, if Ajax are going to allow some talks now, what's going on at the moment with him. Then we're going to talk about Paul Pogba and his situation. Could he still stay at Manchester United and those sort of things? So we're going to talk about that. Then we're going to talk about some potential structure changes that Ragnick has obviously suggested. So we're going to talk a little bit about that detail of certain things coming into the club. Then we're going to talk about the deputy director of football that I know that's been quiet recently. So we're going to just talk a little bit about why and what's going on with that one. And some future transfers. Are they looking to plan now? So we're going to talk about that. And we'll tie the future transfers in if Manchester United don't get Champions League football next year, what that might do to in terms of what they're looking for, the type of player and so forth. So let's talk about Pochettino's situation at Manchester United first. There's been a lot of rumours about Pochettino since PSG obviously lost dramatically at the end of the Champions League in the second leg against Real Madrid. And they didn't look great, to be honest with you. And they got booed in the weekend, didn't they, for the league? Now, here's the thing about Pochettino. And what people don't realise is that PSG will be in control of that narrative. They will control if there's going to be any talks. So Pochettino is being widely expected to eventually become a Manchester United manager at some point in his career. And it dates back years and years, even the time when he had lunch with Ferguson, the rumours started from there, right? So there's always been that historical sort of background with Pochettino. So absolutely he's going to be involved in the candidate list. That, you can't make no mistake about it. He's going to be involved because Manchester United see him as a potential candidate that can take over the job. So that is a normal process. There's been a lot of talk at the moment that Manchester United have been allowed to speak to Pochettino. Well, they're allowed to have talks right now with Pochettino. There's been a lot of talks that he's the favourite. There's a lot of news that's going out there. And the timing around that news is quite interesting if you look at it, right? So they exit from the Champions League football. And then straight away, within hours, Pochettino is likely to be sacked at the end of the season. He's going to go to Manchester United. Now, that news creates noise because it's straight after the game and there's a lot of interactions that are involved in there. And accounts will prey on you. Unfortunately, they will prey on fans. And that's standard in the standard social engagement nowadays and how it goes. But what I've been told, and the current situation with PSG is they're not going to allow talks with, they're not allowing Pochettino to talk with Manchester United until they've got a replacement. So there hasn't been any direct dialogue talk with Pochettino at this point in time. Now you have to remember he doesn't have an agent, so United can't go and do informal talks and they can't start saying, hey, let's call up Pochettino and let's have a discussion with his agent because he's not got one. So that can't happen, simply enough. So that news that you're getting is not reliable. Obviously, I respect all sources. I'm not going to name names and those sort of things. There's been a lot of accounts that have said that. They can do that. That's fine. That's up to them. We're going to focus on what we do. So Pochettino can't talk with Manchester United at the moment. It is not possible for him to talk because there's no sort of way to have those particular talks. Okay? Now, absolutely Manchester United have him on the list. And it is expected that they will speak to him at some point. Whether or not that's at the end of the season. And this is where it gets tricky. Is Manchester United want to make an announcement before the end of the season. PSG want a replacement for Pochettino before he's allowed to talk to any club. Now, it's widely expected he would leave in the summer, whether that's Manchester United or another club. That isn't there right now. So, there's still chances he could remain next season. Now, I know that seems quite extreme because of them getting knocked out in the Champions League. And there's a lot of issues, and there's probably going to be some structural changes at PSG and some replacements higher up than Pochettino. So that might change things. But there is no realistic replacement for Pochettino right now. Zidane was offered the job back in November, rejected it. So he's highly unlikely. I mean, they're going to have to persuade him again because he wants the French job, and that is clear as day because he's had many opportunities and he said no. Right? But that could change, of course. Football's fluid and that might happen, but we're not currently there at that situation. Luis Enrique is not available until 2023. And then you've got Conte, who is kind of disruptive, and PSG like to control the narrative of how they go. Absolutely, he'll be giving money for transfers and those sort of things. But he hasn't helped himself at Spurs. People talk about him improving Spurs. But I don't think he's done a great deal for Tottenham, and I know that's a short period of time. But I don't think necessarily PSG will look for him as a manager. And if they do, I don't think it's going to be successful. He's not got a great Champions League record either. So they'll be looking at that because PSG want to win the Champions Leagues. And he's not got a great record, to be honest with you. Absolutely, he'll win the league, but it's the French league. PSG expected to win. Incidentally, he didn't win last year. So there's a lot of that going on. So, and obviously the directors come out and said that Pochettino is staying until the end of the season. And we'll see from there. So at the moment, just to summarise on that, there is no talk or direct talks with Pochettino. Now, if that happens in 2 or 3 months' time, these accounts are going to claim that there was talk, right? That's not how it works in football. There is no talks, there's no negotiations. Those negotiations might happen 4 or 5 weeks before because there'll be willingness on both sides. So there is no talks with Pochettino right now. So it's not possible for him to be the favourite because they haven't had an interview with him, haven't discussed the plans. You know, they can't discuss those things while he is contracted to PSG and doesn't have an agent. It's not possible to have those particular talks. So that makes it difficult for Pochettino to be favourite at this point in time. So I appreciate what people are saying on Twitter and those sort of things, but at the moment that's fake. So unless that changes and negotiations happen, then we can talk about it. But at the moment, in this current situation, the current situation is podcast that we're talking about, there is nothing, right? So we'll leave it as that. But absolutely, he's a candidate, and I expect Manchester United to speak to him at some point, but it's on PSG terms. And they're very, just to finish off, PSG, although you can't really compare a player with a manager, PSG are quite stubborn. You look at the likes of Mbappe, they haven't, you know, he's going to go free next summer. They got a £200 million bid last summer. They did not sell him. They will be in control of the narrative. They like to control things. And it doesn't matter what people are saying. It's different to a player and the manager. They will still want to control and have that replacement. They don't want to let a manager go who's an ex-PSG player before they have someone else in place. And that currently isn't where, you know, that isn't where they are at the moment. So it's not possible to have that. So think about that logically for a minute. And I've been told that's not the case right now from fans. So we'll have to wait and see with that one. And if it changes in 3 or 4 weeks' time, I will tell you. But at this point in time, it's not logical what accounts are telling you. And I appreciate they're doing it for, you know, they're sending out news to get interactions and those sort of things because it makes sense. But please stay away from that. Okay? So that's the Pochettino situation right now. Now, we move on to Ten Hag. Now, Ten Hag is a fresh face of Manchester United. He's considered a potential new era for the club. All right? The board are extremely impressed with what he's doing. Now, everyone can talk about Ajax being in an easy league, and they can compare all the other original Dutch managers before. Ten Hag's slightly different, okay? Now, if people don't know his background, he's worked with Pep at Bayern Munich. He's done a lot of training with some of the top managers, and he's learned his craft, and he's gone to Ajax for his first big job, and he got to the semi-finals of the Champions League. He's got Ajax back in winning leagues, defensively pretty good, although recently they've conceded a few goals. They're scoring a lot of goals. I mean, in January, they already had 100 goals. And he's doing exciting football, but he's also got a structure in place. He's tough. He's got discipline. You know, he expects his players to respect him. He's very adaptable in his tactics. And he will expect the best from all his players. And that is kind of what United are looking for. So he is slightly ahead of Pochettino, I would say, at this point in time. Now, the good thing about Ten Hag is at this point in time is that although there's been no formal talks, there has been indirect formal talks. So you look at it, he's learning advanced English. Important, because apparently Spurs rejected him because he didn't know English. That was crazy. I think that was an excuse, to be honest with you, which was a mistake on their part, massive. They had that opportunity. Now, he's learning advanced English, and he's talking about Germany structures that Rangnick is wanting to bring for Manchester United. So those are key bits, okay? Ajax have got a fantastic relationship with Manchester United. Van der Sar's got direct links with Manchester United, as you know, okay? So it's an easy deal to be done. Now, everyone talks about an expensive release clause or lower release clauses and stuff like that. You know, it can be done cheaper for Manchester United just because of the way the history is between the clubs, all right? So Ten Hag is expected to have talks at the end of this month, like serious talks, okay? And that's expected, I think it's expected right towards the end of March, just in the international break. I believe so, is what I've been told. So that is an important key information. That means that Ten Hag can have those interviews before Pochettino. The key part for Ten Hag is he's got to keep him impressing this season. So he's got to do well in the Champions League, and he's got to try and get as far as he can as possible, and as you know, try and express his kind of football to Manchester United, because that's what they'll be looking at. Pochettino's already out of the Champions League. PSG look crap, to be honest with you, in my polite terms. You know, you can't. People say you can't judge PSG, but I don't like his kind of football. So there's a lot of issues there. The board were quite not impressed with how they sort of folded against Madrid, and Manchester United have got players that need discipline. All right, they need discipline and they need direct and none of this leak stuff that goes out, and they need to have the attitudes in order. Now, Ten Hag gives that. So there is expected talks in the next couple of weeks with Ten Hag, and they're expected to be quite formal in terms of the job. And he does want the Manchester United job, okay? That is clear. And he has made that known that he wants to talk to Manchester United because he loves the history of the club and he wants to restructure them and get them back to where they are. Pochettino expects the war. He expects the job because he's been linked with them for years. And that's a massive mistake for a club to make, is that if a manager expects the job, you don't quite necessarily get that hunger from them. And my concern is, and a lot of people concerned, and some of the senior staff of Manchester United have said, he did well at Spurs on a fairly small budget, but he still spent quite a bit of money here and there. But he didn't do so well at PSG. Now, people can judge them for whatever you want. You've got to judge where they go. They make those career choices. I judge them on that. You know, if Mourinho went to PSG, I'd judge him on it. I'd judge Pep if he went there. It doesn't matter the caliber of the manager, okay? I will judge them on where they've gone. Simple as that. Don't care what everyone else says. I judge them how they play. And it's up to them to get the best out of the team. Messi's looked awful. There's been a lot of issues with that club. Now, people can blame it on the players, but the manager also has to take the fault. And in the end, at Spurs, he didn't do so well after the Champions League. Now, people can talk about that being the after effect of getting to Champions League final, and that's kind of how far Spurs can get because they don't win trophies. But my concern is, and a lot of people in the senior staff have said, maybe he did his best work at Spurs, and that is where he can do. And we've had this scenario before, and I know it's a different comparison, but if you look at David Moyes, he did extremely well at Everton, didn't he? He did something quite similar to what Spurs, a little bit less, but he had that sort of feeling. And he got sacked after 7 months. All right. Maybe he could have had more investment, absolutely. But Pochettino, for me, is more of a risk than Ten Hag. And some of the senior staff at the club are starting to see that. All right. So at the moment, that's where we are with Ten Hag. Formal talks expected in the next couple of weeks. So that's a key part of the information going on. All right. And we'll go into more detail about the managers towards the end and just give you a summary of that. All right. Now, Paul Pogba's situation. I mentioned this back in October that Paul Pogba will not make a decision until the summer. And I've been mentioning this all the season before and so forth. He will not make a decision until the end of the season. And the reason for that is he wants to understand what the manager is going to be at Manchester United. Now, my feeling around that is that, and I think Ten Hag is the right person for the job. And I think, but I don't believe Pochettino or Ten Hag has the sort of status that could probably keep up with the club. So my understanding is he will leave. Unless United offer him like 400 to 500k a week, then he'll be silly not to stay. He's not, the issue Pogba's got is that Barcelona have got quite a good midfield, young midfield coming in. Madrid have got some good players coming in. They're looking after, they've got some midfield targets in the summer. So Pogba's got, he might go back to Juventus, but he's got to do this wisely. Likely PSG is probably the place he will go. We don't know yet. I'm just obviously summarising on that. But I don't expect Paul Pogba to sign a new contract for Manchester United. I don't, the same way I didn't expect Mbappe to sign a contract with PSG, even though he verbally agreed it 2 years ago. Very strange, but Madrid came in. So a lot of changes happening with various clubs. So I don't expect Paul Pogba to leave. I expect him to leave, sorry. So we'll see what happens with that one. It could change in 2 or 3 months. We'll see. Because there are other candidates involved in the manager role. It's unlikely, but they are involved. Now, and we're going through this quickly, but I'll summarise at the end. We've got Rangnick structures suggestions as well. So a lot of the stuff that you'll see in like the deputy director of football, which we'll talk about in a minute, and some of the other structure changes going on at the club. The reason for that is that Rangnick has spotted some of the weaknesses in the club. The structure hasn't been right for the decisions. You've had non-football people making decisions for football reasons, and you can see that the club haven't won the Premier League for a long time, haven't won trophies for a long time. And the reason for that is they just didn't have the right structure. They were just having a bad recruitment and those sort of things. Rangnick's one of those guys who find a lot of good in recruitment, and you've seen that some of his transfers that he's done incredibly cheap and one of them's worth 100 million now plus. So there's a lot of players involved in that. And also what he wants to bring in is the mentality side of it. So there's a lot of mentality, bringing in a mental coach, those sort of things, dealing with the pressures of big football, dealing with the pressures of Manchester United because it's a big club. So he's looking at the mental side of it all, having the video analyst, and those sort of things will be moving forward. And the key thing for that is that isn't just going to stop at Rangnick. That's going to happen on the next manager, because the next manager also have to have that similar sort of style. And what's key here as well, just go back to the managers, is that Rangnick believes Ten Hag is more suited under him than Pochettino. So that's a key thing. They need to listen to him. If they don't listen to him, they're going to fail for another 5 to 10 years. Simple fact. Some people want Pochettino. You'll find out very soon that that would have been a wrong choice. But at the moment, Ten Hag, and I'll give a little hint at the end what's going on with that. So that's where they are with the kind of the structural changes. Let's talk about the Old Trafford structure. So there's news that came out today about Manchester United knocking down Old Trafford. I don't see that happening. There's no way Glazers are going to spend that amount of money. They take dividends out of the club. They're not going to put in that amount of money to knock it down. They are upgrading the facilities. Now, they're upgrading the facilities for events. And also, you look at it, and you don't look at it now, but 5 to 10 years' time, they could say, actually, this club now, we can sell it because we've improved the facilities. Suddenly realised that's their only way. They thought the Super League would have been the way out to get all their money and go. But this is the next step, but it's just going to take a lot longer. 5 to 10 years, maybe a little bit less than that. So we'll see what happens with that one. But that is kind of the reason why they're looking at the facilities. But they did also agree it at the forum straight after obviously the Super League, that they do need to make improvements in the facilities. But the Old Trafford one is a new one on that one. All right. Future transfers. Now this is incredibly key to sort of the manager search. Been a lot of news around some transfers like Harry Kane, who Daniel Levy still wants 100 million for Harry Kane. Manchester United are not going to pay 100 million for Harry Kane. Now, we'll go back to that, and we'll dissect some of those sort of transfers and explain why some of the news come out recently and stuff like that. Now, Harry Kane, £100 million. What manager is going to be linked to it? Pochettino, right? That's obvious. So Harry Kane's looking for a club next summer. So, of course, Manchester United are going to be linked with him because he's an English striker, forward, and people believe that he'd be useful for Manchester United. But he wants Champions League football. But then if you've got Pochettino as a candidate, of course you're going to link him with Kane. So it's not news, it's just guesswork. It's just people assuming that's going to happen. Now, I could get someone off the street and they could go and create an account on Twitter and put that kind of news out, and people praise them for it. It's just nonsense. It's just the way it works. All right. So that there is nothing with Harry Kane. There is absolutely nothing. Now, interestingly, with Declan Rice, is obviously Chelsea's situation is not clever. They look like they're going to get out of it. But Declan Rice could still end up at Manchester United because they like Declan Rice. So that is a potential transfer that could happen under any of the management. So it can happen under Ten Hag, it can happen under Pochettino. But the manager, and here's the key thing, and here's a hint, the manager will be involved in all the transfer targets as soon as they sit down, and that's pretty quickly. So that's over the next few weeks. So that tells you something, doesn't it? So we'll see what goes on with that. There's the other ones like Nunez, who's a credible player. He's been linked as well. He's linked to a lot of players. They're linked to a lot of clubs. So we'll have to see with that one. But at the moment, some of those transfers are just rumours. They'll be drawing up the list, talking with the new manager and saying, right, okay, who do you want? And this kind of ties in with the Champions League part. So United believe that not getting Champions League next season will not disrupt their transfer or their transfer budget. I saw something about 80 million. That's nonsense, by the way. It won't disrupt their targets either. So United believe that they will have the type of caliber of manager that will attract those sort of players in that club and will create that type of football. So they're not concerned about Champions League football next season. Neither are the Glazers. They're not concerned about Champions League next football. And it's highly unlikely. Arsenal are playing well at the moment, God forbid. They look like they're getting fourth and they've got 3 games in hand. So they're looking good this season. Fair play to them. Arteta's done a good job to get fourth. I mean, he's never going to win the Premier League, but he's that kind of manager who can get you fourth. Wenger 2.0. I'm joking. Yeah. So Arsenal are doing well. So United are not concerned about it. So there are a lot of transfers that they can do. And they've got a fairly good budget for the next manager. And ideally, normally and historically, they do give a lot of money for the new manager. So not going to be impacted too much at all. So that is where we are with the situation. So just to summarize on the manager situation, Pochettino can't talk with United at the moment. He's got no agent. So at the moment, PSG will not allow it until they've got a replacement. And it's likely towards the end of the season that they would allow him to have talks with any club. And they say it with any club, all right? Because he still has suitors, people admire him in different clubs. It's this kind of person he is. Ten Hag can have talks now. And I expect more things to come out after the Champions League. And we'll see tomorrow because he's got to keep going and making his squad look good towards the end of the season. But he hasn't been involved in certain, journalists came out today, hasn't been involved in certain operational changes. And obviously Huntelaar going back wasn't involved in that from journalist Mike, who said that. So there is a clear message that Ten Hag's going to leave this summer, and it's potential there could be an agreement already in place with a club, right? So we'll see with that one. But at the moment, the rumours around Pochettino are false. There is no talks. There are nothing at the moment. If it happens in 3 months' time, those accounts didn't know. And there is nothing at the moment. There's no formal talks. There's no dialogues. He's got no agent. It's almost impossible to know if he's having talks or not. It's almost impossible because he's got no agent to talk about it and get a media stir. All right? So it's almost impossible right now to do that. But from PSG side, they will not allow talks at the moment during the season. There's still the league title, although that's gone and easy done. PSG is still that focused just to finish off the season and then reassess. And it will be controlled by them what happens. Manchester United have a great relationship with Ten Hag. He has easier chances to get that job. So that's where we are with the situation. The next podcast will confirm the next manager, by the way. And I will hopefully be able to release that as soon as possible in the next couple of weeks, and then you will know who it is. Some comments are quite laughable. They come through my Discord and those sort of things. I see them sometimes. People asking me this sort of situation and that sort of thing. Now, let's talk about some of the questions on Twitter. So we'll go through some of these towards the end, and we'll just talk about them. So Someone said, I have heard Arnold follows Rangnick's suggestions and supports him 100%. Also, he's also on the same ship with Rangnick and Ten Hag appointment. That's an interesting one, right? Arnold doesn't get involved in any of the football situations, and he respects Rangnick. So he expects him to, and Murtough, John Murtough expects and also confident in the situation that Rangnick will give him the right suggestions. So that's where it is with that. Who are the actual? And so this is from Jack Barker. Who are the actual transfer targets for the summer? There is none at the moment. The new manager needs to be in place, and then those will start going. Which are involved in signing the budget and players' contracts? Of course, the CEO they have to have his signature stamp on it. It's normal. Nothing major with that one. What centre back could you see us signing, and are we after any fullbacks? That's an interesting one because I'm only going to give an opinion on that one because there's no transfer targets at the moment. Harry Maguire's form has been incredibly bad this season, right? And Rangnick's already said that, moving forward, you're probably going to need a new centre back because Harry Maguire, no fault to his own, he's not an £80 million defender. He's around 30, 40 million, and I'm being polite, all right? He's not good enough. He shouldn't be the Manchester United captain. And that is from a neutral's perspective and from other fans saying that as well, by the way. So there will be a potential new centre-back, but it will be a cheap centre-back. It won't be an expensive one. It'll be someone that they can nurture and move up. It might be someone on free, or it might be someone that is looking for the experience, all right? So there won't be a world-class centre-back coming in that sense. Now, with fullbacks, we don't know at the moment, but obviously, I would say Wan-Bissaka and Dalot are probably not enough. The left back position is probably a little bit more filled. So United probably looking for the more of a right back in that sense on that one. How reliable are these 10 Hag quotes from Murdoch? I never saw anyone outside the country report it. I would have thought would have picked it up. The quotes were legit. Now, when I sometimes put sources out or I will do transfers, I have my own opinion on them. Now, Ten Hag has said it probably in the past, and those sort of things have come from. Right? Now, I think, and my personal opinion is there are some sources that do play on it a little bit, but we will send out Manchester United news. So on top of my updates, I will give out what other obviously papers are doing because the page that we've got is a Man United page, including me. So we will give that news out. So what we probably will do moving forward is only give you sort of the sources that and we fact checked it to say, okay, well, that is credible. All right. So you will see that, but we were just experimenting. But obviously you will see that kind of tier list moving forward for United transfers because we have the experience of knowing who that is. So we will give you that kind of sort of facility moving forward. And were there any more questions? Let's have a look. How about the future of the youngsters, including all the loanees? Thing is about loanees, it's very difficult. When they go out on loan for 1 or 2 years, you kind of don't expect them to break the mold already to the first 11. It's almost difficult for them to do it. I expect Ahmed Diallo to do under the next manager. To get it. So we'll see what happens with him. But a lot of the other youngsters will struggle. I mean, James Garner's definitely going to come back into the team. He looks like a good little player. So I expect him. He's had a good couple of years of experience, but I would still give him a Premier League loan is what probably will be next. And then maybe the season after he'll be ready to play for Manchester United. So that's where we are with that. So I appreciate that, guys. Make sure you like the video. Subscribe if you want to. You don't have to. You can just listen to it. It's not a problem. And hopefully that's been informative for you and for you to just stay away from news that isn't clear. And I will see you on the next podcast, which will be extremely interesting because hopefully then I can confirm the next manager with you. But I appreciate you listening to me today, guys. I know it's been a lot to get on with. Hopefully you have a good week and hopefully we hear some good news from Manchester United moving forward because you've had a lot of bad years and you deserve to be back where you are. So thank you, guys. If I don't speak to you again this week, have a good week and I will drop the next podcast pretty soon. Bye, guys.